Right, we've got a Mark 5, chaps.
Yeah. Yes.
Mark 5 spit, and the things that make it unique from the other Marks: radiators.
Radiators. Yeah. Oil coolant.
Oh, and the Hispanos as well.
Yeah. Guns.
And these lovely 20 millers.
Wing braces at the top of the wing.
What are they actually for? Strength or?
Yeah, strength and to help with the vibration when they fire these cannons.
Yeah.
Induce a huge amount of vibration into the main wing spar, so they were there to help give the wing some rigidity.
Awesome. I better introduce everyone. B-Man, you know him by now. Alison, you know. Kestrel, me. You can see me. Right, so we're going to do a walk around. So the first thing we've learned today is that this prop is made of wood, which is a bit scary.
Reliable.
Flying around in my wouldn't, alright, but okay. That was the done thing. And also learnt that we've got a metal leading edge here, which is interesting, so that it can keep its form. And the other thing is, some quite big panel gaps here, as you can see. Several millimetres big, I wasn't expecting. Because at the end of the day, it is a real spit, a real original one. See, we've got some panel gaps here as well. Wings are much more flush. Absolutely massive Hispanos. Do we know how many rounds they kept? I can't remember. The DCS people will know. The metal surrounding is almost foil, it's so thin. And it is a clipped wing version as well, which we've just got in DCS, which is awesome. So this would have been the response to the faster Messerschmitt and Focke-Wulf 190. Clipped 2 feet off the end of the wing, like so, and it gained about 5 or 6 knots low down. Ailerons, no trim tabs. Incredibly thin metal here, I can feel it, it's almost foil. Without trying to damage the paint. Wing itself, slightly thicker gauge by the feel of it. Wing hump here. This must be for the cannon. And you've literally got, here's one thing that amazed me when looking at them close up, you've literally got screws holding the removable panels down. Just some little worn out screws, that's awesome. Got this thicker paint here, which is just, and it must be, yeah, thicker gauge metal as well. This must be the walkway. No, like a rough non-slip paint where people can walk on. And then the thin gauge here to save weight. And here's another look at the strengthening ribs of the Mark V. Looks like they're just riveted to the skin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Nazi kills. Pretty cool. As we work our way down, all these panels are kind of like hard fixed, hard riveted, so there's nothing removable here as far as I can see. This cowling here will appears to be removable. Got screws. An antenna at the top, which is screwed on by the looks of it. This light here. Work our way down, this is all hard riveted, so there's nothing removable here. Removable panel down here. And this cowling here that joins the these rear elevators to the fin section or to the rear of the fuselage is just screwed on as well. Amazing. Leads me to wonder how these are attached to the actual body. Lots of chips in the paint here on the leading edge. Leads me to wonder they must have had some kind of strikes on the leading edge. So we come to the movable elevators at the back. First thing that really surprises you is that it's not made of metal at all, it's made of cloth. And I can literally push my finger into this thing. It's so freaky. If I feel like I pushed any harder than that, which is hardly anything, I feel like I'm going to break it. Absolutely crazy. Pretty sure it's just to save weight. And the way you would trim these elevators is you'd have a separate trim tab. This is the trim tab, here's the actuator, presumably just a direct linkage. And so you could just put just literally a couple of degrees of trim on with these trim tabs. There's a real one. Rudder. So tail fin body. Just to see how thin the metal is, I don't know if you can see that. Incredibly thin metal, like less than a millimetre, maybe a millimetre of alloy, of aluminium. It's amazing. The actual movable rudder, again, if we touch it, is literally just like an ironing board, just stretched fabric, and it feels incredibly fragile, which is kind of just weird. But very cool. Adjustable trim tab rudder for rudder trim. Again, got the actuator, and again, it's just, as far as I can tell, just wood, like if you were going to make a toy plane or something, wood and a bit of fabric. Get out to put a little bit of adjustment on that rudder. Now make sure I start using my rudder trim in DTS from now on. And be more careful with my rudder. I know that it's made of clothing. Two attachments for the movable elevators. I don't know if we can see that. Can we see that in there? Two screws in there. Oops. There we go. These two attachments for the movable elevators. Very small attachments. Work our way round again. Body. Lovely and smooth. Our ribs again. Removable panel here. So this must be to get to service the 20mm cannon and the machine gun. I've forgotten where the machine guns are. No, I think that's the machine gun panel. And we can see here is that the actuator or the hinge? That's the actuator for the right aileron. An adjustable rod of some kind. I'm not quite sure how that works. And then we've got the hinge. I think that must be the hinge there. Everything appears to be aluminium of various gauges. What's that then? No, actually that must be the hinge. Oh right, I see, yeah, that's the hinge there. That there must be the actuator then. Some kind of twisting mechanism, I'm not sure. Interesting. Clipped wing. Now here's one thing that's interesting. Inside the aileron and inside the kind of, if you like, the side edge, the clipped side edge is just wood. And now I used to be a carpenter myself, so I'm going to try and see what wood that is. It's grainy like oak, but I don't know, beech or maple, not sure actually. But the interesting thing is it's just untreated wood. Side edges just screwed on. We've got some Phillips screws now. Interesting. These must be the 303 machine gun ports. Just going to have a quick look under. So, right radiator and cell. and that's really thick gauge alloy there. So it's got, I think the front leading edge of this pod is designed to take some serious whacks, and you can see, I don't know if it's coming out in the camera okay, but you can see it's got loads of paint stripped off there, so I'm getting the feeling this must just take a good thumping with, I don't know what, whatever you've been thumping your radiator cell on, I guess. It's reinforced by it's got some hefty kind of 3mm alloy strips on by the looks of it. You can see the flaps, radiator flaps, movable radiator flaps at the back. It's a standard alloy core radiator there. Big old thing, much bigger than a car radiator. Actually, it's about the same cross section, but deep, real deep. In the wheel cell, some strengthening ribs, and the gear is awesome. Interesting, it's about the size of a car wheel, standard car wheel, but it's got to take huge forces compared to a car wheel, so its specification must be massive. 4 tiny little wheel nuts. Whopping great shocks. A pivot point there, and I don't know if this is steel or if it's alloy. I guessed steel, but I don't really know. And so we have a pivot point there. We have some kind of piston actuator there that goes inside into the inner body of the plane. So that must drive it. We have a chain linkage there, but I don't know what that could be. That's interesting, and a whole bunch of actuators there. I'm not sure what that all is. Interesting there. Can't see the elevator linkage anywhere. Sorry, the aileron linkage. That's all interesting. I'd love to know whether these are steel or not. Solid. Got some lower engine cowling here. Exhaust manifolds, let's have a feel of them. Surprisingly thin, real thin compared to a car. Yeah, it's about 1.5 mm or less. Some pretty good welding on it. So I'm guessing that's, you know, cast iron or some steel or something. Beautiful. Any remarks on the Mark V?
Any remarks?
Kestrel?
That's alright. Pete's the one you normally ask for remarks.
You caught him off guard now.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I didn't have time to think. You just sort of shoved a camera in my face.
I wonder if I can... Oh, look at that. Yeah. Oh no, it doesn't go all the way around. Yeah, it does. So... remarks. Well, it's just pretty awesome, really. And, I don't know, just shocked how lightweight and kind of weak everything is.
I don't think I'd get in it.
We were talking to, I think Mick's busy, he's the engineer, and AP,
Hey.
come on, get in. We were, I'm not used to doing this, we were talking to, was it Mick the engineer?
Yes.
And he was saying, or no, as you were saying, when you're inside the cockpit, how absolutely noisy and rattly it is that you couldn't even listen to a radio if you wanted to listen to a radio or make any comms.
Yeah, no,
So-
when you're inside one, all you can hear is the engine and the air rushing and everything else, and all the communication between the pilots and between the ground crew and everything else is all done by hand signals. It's just not done with radios. You can hear something, and it's usually just a case of white noise. You
Wow.
really can't hear anything of any kind of detail.
Yeah.
That's still the way that it's done now. And there's only a couple of aircraft that have got the external comm jacks, and even then, most of the time they don't use them, they just use hand signals.
Awesome. Well, I'm chuffed with that. I just spotted a couple of Merlins. Are they Merlins over there?
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to have to go and have a quick documentation.